Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, December 21st. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amitha Sharma in for Maya Trabulsi. KPBS has exclusively obtained records that show the location of all COVID-19 outbreaks in San Diego County since March. KPBS investigative reporter Claire Tregerser says the records show how outbreaks have hit everywhere, from churches and restaurants to big box stores.
I'll be here in the morning time. To avoid the crowded people.
Il Ho Hong was dressed in a mask and plastic gloves while shopping last week at the Walmart on College Avenue. He's worried about catching COVID-19 while in the store.
If we aware that previously they have someone in there, maybe I'm not going to use the store. Maybe I'm going to use the other store.
Hong didn't know it, but that Walmart did have an outbreak at the end of October with at least 24 cases. It was one of 14 different outbreaks at local Walmarts since the start of the pandemic. Like Hong, if you've gone out at all since the pandemic first struck, you quite likely walked into a place that's had an outbreak. That's according to a KPBS analysis of more than 1,000 outbreak records dating from March through the end of November. At least 208 outbreaks have hit restaurants. Popular chain restaurants like Olive Garden, Cheesecake Factory, Denny's, and the Broken Yoke Cafe have each had multiple outbreaks. At least 125 outbreaks have occurred in large retailers and grocery stores like Costco, Target, Home Depot, Trader Joe's, and Walmart, according to the records KPBS obtained. A Walmart spokeswoman responded in a statement that the retailer has taken steps to make the shopping experience as safe as possible. During this challenging time, we're working to balance health and safety concerns while still meeting the needs and expectations of our customers and associates, she said. However, just because you visited a place that had an outbreak doesn't necessarily mean you are exposed to the virus and doesn't mean you can catch COVID-19 by going there now. An outbreak means 3 or more people with COVID-19 who aren't close contacts were in that place over the same 14-day period. It's possible none of them caught the virus at the outbreak location. Being the site of an outbreak doesn't necessarily mean the businesses had unsafe practices. Also, the records reviewed by KPBS don't reveal whether employees or patrons were infected. That means it's hard to say how the virus might have spread, says UC San Diego epidemiologist Rebecca Fielding-Miller.
If it's 9 staff members who are all working in the kitchen together, and you have 9 people test positive within a 14-day window, my initial assumption would be that those are connected. On the other hand, if you have 9 people report that they happen to be in a Walmart in Chula Vista within a 14-day window because they were grocery shopping, that I think you would have to narrow down to a much more specific window. Like, you'd have to be able to say those people were all grocery shopping between 2 and 5 p.m. on Wednesday.
She also says context is important. A higher number of outbreaks at retail chains is likely partly because they have multiple locations, more customers, and more employees.
So you wouldn't say, oh, Otay Mesa has only had 1 outbreak, but Denny's has had 5, therefore Otay Mesa is safer.
But the records do show you're far more likely to be exposed to an outbreak based on your living circumstances or your behavior. For example, 24% of all the outbreaks occurred in nursing homes, jails, rehab facilities, and shelters. At least 136 outbreaks occurred in just 5 lower-income zip codes in East and South County, which have high numbers of essential workers. and at least 86 outbreaks happened in the Pacific Beach and Gaslamp zip codes, two of the county's biggest party spots. This is the first time the public has seen the list of specific outbreak locations for San Diego County. County officials have kept them secret, instead only listing outbreaks by category, such as bar/restaurant or business. KPBS obtained these records, and county officials have thus far refused to comment on our findings. When KPBS and other news outlets sued to get the records, the county argued that businesses and other organizations would not report outbreaks if detailed records were made public. We lost that lawsuit, but are appealing. Frontline employees and union representatives interviewed by KPBS agree that detailed outbreak records should be made public.
Who feels safe at work when they're dealing with the public? No, they're very afraid.
Jaime Vasquez is with the union that represents Costco employees.
Especially now with the Christmas shopping, you have packed warehouses almost on a daily basis.
He says Costco is allowing half capacity, but argues it should be classified as retail, which would keep it to 20%. The store did not respond to a request for comment. Devin Hannigan works as a supervisor at Vons on Balboa Avenue. He says it's important for the public to know where outbreaks are happening.
Every man and woman who works for this company should be able to evaluate their own risk and be able to come up with an idea of what's too much.
Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
In the coming days, we will look more closely at what the records show about outbreaks at casinos, jails, and nursing homes. KPBS investigative assistant Katie Stiegel contributed to this report. We've created an online tool to show you where outbreaks have happened between March through the end of November. You can find it along with our investigation at kpbs.org. As the number of coronavirus cases surges here in San Diego County, some business owners and local leaders are demanding the right to reopen their doors. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is in El Cajon live, where a rally just wrapped up. Matt?
Yeah, Amitha, people at this rally are fed up with coronavirus restrictions, and they're encouraging people, they say, to stand up for their rights to make a living, even as cases of COVID-19 are rising, including hospitalizations.
Fear is the watchword of the day, but it's Christmas time, and we shouldn't live Christmas in fear right now. And I actually believe that we're turning the corner.
Yeah, elected officials out here at the All I Want for Christmas is Freedom rally, including El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells and newly re-elected Congressman Darrell Issa and State Senator Brian Jones, all advocating for businesses to be allowed to open fully. They argue it can be done safely, but county and state officials are reporting record numbers of cases, and they say we are not turning a corner, even with first vaccinations going out, warning that ICUs could be overwhelmed if people gather this holiday season. Now, even though there was a message here to reopen businesses, this event had music, food, and shopping vendors, lots of families out here too, but not a lot of mask wearing or social distancing, as you can see. Also a lot of Trump 2020 hats and apparel here. Now, earlier we talked to one business owner in El Cajon who said the idea of resisting closure orders isn't easy, especially with the threat of fines.
I would really appreciate just let us work. That's it. We will take care of ourselves. That's the big thing. Altogether, you know, like we struggle and it's stress when you have to figure out with your debts every single day just because not your fault. You're doing everything right according to the law. And you have to still pay. Nobody give you even penny discount for that.
The owner of Testo Pepesto right off Main Street in El Cajon tells me he's had to cut more staff hours ahead of the holidays. Now they've built up some takeout sales over the months, but say it's just not enough to keep up with rent and other bills that are piling up right now. He's been putting in long hours at the restaurant, but that means this owner does not get to see his family, basically saying before he leaves before they wake up and coming home after they're asleep. He worries about stress and burnout, but he says the only other option is shutting down for good, and he says that is not an option. As we come back out here live in El Cajon, that rally wrapping up, but that same owner telling me last time, or basically telling me that the news that Congress is going to reach a deal on a second stimulus package is good news, only because he gets PPP money, but also because he says when Americans got that stimulus check, he saw an immediate boost in business, and he's hoping that happens again soon. Here in El Cajon, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
It now appears likely that the stay-at-home order set to expire before the end of the month will be extended. Today, Governor Gavin Newsom updated the latest coronavirus numbers for California. Statewide, 83 deaths and more than 37,000 cases were reported. There's been a 63% increase in hospitalizations and a 51% increase in ICU admittance. The ICU capacity for the Southern California region remains at 0%. 98% of the state is currently under a regional stay-at-home order.
Based upon all the data and based upon all these trend lines, it's very likely, based on those current trends, that we'll need to extend that stay-at-home order. You recall it was a 3-week order when we announced it a few weeks back.
The governor spoke from his home where he is quarantining for 10 days after one of his staffers tested positive for COVID-19. Newsom and the rest of his staff tested negative yesterday. Congress is on the verge of passing a far-reaching $900 billion relief package tied to a $1.4 trillion spending package. The stopgap spending bill to keep the federal government running ends at midnight. Nadia Romero has the latest.
Finally, some movement on Capitol Hill as Republicans and Democrats come close to agreeing on a spending bill and COVID-19 relief.
It is a good bipartisan bill.
A deal that includes a laundry list of measures like $300 a week in enhanced unemployment insurance benefits, $25 billion for rental assistance and an eviction moratorium extension, $82 billion for schools, and $13 billion for food assistance. But it seems neither party is thrilled about stimulus checks at $600 per adult.
So direct payments, which were not in the Republican bill, to America's working families. I would like them bigger, but they are significant, and they will be going out soon.
Some lawmakers say they fear they might not have enough time to actually read the text of the bills before they vote.
I want to see what's in it, obviously, because we don't know, but it's probably not going to be pretty, but it's better than nothing. It's how government works. We're sitting here, it's December, 20th, 21st today. We should have done this, weeks and weeks ago.
And for weeks, many Americans struggling to stay afloat.
Can I have 2 melons here, please?
Waiting in long lines for free food, like South Florida's Deborah Hightower, who says she lost her job twice since the pandemic began.
I'm very independent and do not like to ask for help. But sometimes you just have to do, God humbles you.
From Washington, I'm Nadia Romero.
The first batches of Moderna's recently authorized COVID-19 vaccine have arrived here in San Diego. Today, Rady Children's Hospital received the newly approved shots and a second delivery of Pfizer's formula. The hospital began vaccinating the highest risk staff last week. With the deal in Congress, some more support is on the way for renters and landlords struggling during the pandemic. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us this is just still a stopgap measure.
Monday, Governor Gavin Newsom laid out just how much money California renters should be seeing in the next couple of weeks.
We were all waiting, bated breath, about the need to see something big and bold happen on rental assistance. I'm not sure this is as big and bold as we had hoped for, but it is nonetheless significant. Potentially $2 billion of the $25 billion in rental assistance will come to help Californians in need.
That money will eventually be funneled to governments at the county and city level. In San Diego, rent relief programs from the first round of federal stimulus money is on pace to be entirely spent by their December 30th deadline. A county program has now helped 4,000 households, making payments directly to landlords. The county has yet to receive guidance on exactly how much it could be expecting out of this new round. A statewide eviction moratorium is in place until the end of January. Alan Pentico is with the Southern California Rental Housing Association, which advocates for landlords in San Diego County. He says state legislators now have a month to come up with a sustainable solution for months and months of owed back rent.
We don't want to see these people walk away eventually with a $20,000, $30,000 debt on a rental unit, that's got to be paid at some point by someone. And so I think there's got to be a bit of longer term strategy. We've been addressing things in the short term for quite a while because it's been thrown at us so quickly, particularly at the very beginning of this where every other day it was new policy, new rules, and changing everything. That we have a little bit of, particularly with the vaccines coming out, we have a little bit more time to come up with something that will address things a little bit longer term.
Governor Newsom said he's expecting to extend the eviction moratorium well into the new year. Max Rivlin-Adler, KPBS News.
County leaders say distributing the first batch of 28,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine to healthcare workers went smoothly, but only some hospitals have the ability to store the Pfizer vaccine at the required low temperature. Health and Human Services Director Nick Mascione says that makes the arrival process a bit complicated.
For us, for our hospitals, 13 hospitals or so, 4 of them are getting it directly. And then 9 come through us. So it'd be nice if it was one air traffic control, but we have multiple. And so it requires that extra challenge of communicating to make sure that we're getting our fair share of vaccine into the region.
The initial Pfizer doses covered 72% of the first priority group of healthcare workers. You can see a transcript of the interview with Mascione and Public Health Officer Dr. Wilma Wooten at kpbs.org. Today, the first resident of a long-term care facility in San Diego received the vaccine. Carlos Alegre is a resident of Birch Patrick Skilled Nursing Facility at Sharp Chula Vista Medical Center. Residents of Villa Coronado at Sharp Coronado Hospital were also vaccinated today. With the holiday season in full swing, airports have been at their busiest since lockdowns began in March. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers says the surge in holiday travel coincides with the highest peaks of daily COVID-19 cases and deaths in the U.S.
Over 1 million people have passed through Transportation Security Administration checkpoints over each of the past 3 days, marking the first time that it has happened in the United States since mid-March. Those travel numbers contrast with public health pleas from the Centers for Disease Control to avoid holiday travel and gatherings. Nicole Hall, Senior Communications Specialist for San Diego International Airport, expects to see those numbers continue to rise in the days leading up to Christmas.
We anticipate seeing as many as 20,000 passengers coming through the airport on our busiest travel days, which are December 23rd and December 27th.
Airport travel around Thanksgiving was the first time that U.S. security checkpoints recorded multiple days with more than 1 million passengers since the beginning of pandemic-related lockdowns. Hall says the travel numbers this holiday season will likely stay high.
The week before Christmas and the week after through the New Year's is where we see increased passenger travel.
Even with the uptick in those taking to the skies, San Diego International Airport has seen 73% less passengers at this time of year than normal. Hall says airline industry experts don't expect a full turnaround for airline travel anytime soon.
The current thinking is that there is about a 2-year period before we do return to travel. What that looks like and what happens, since the COVID situation is so fluid, we really have no way to actually put a number on that in terms of time.
The San Diego International Airport said travelers should have a clear understanding of state and local government travel restrictions for wherever they are headed, including testing requirements, stay-at-home orders, and quarantine mandates. AAA projects about 85 million people will travel between December 23rd and January 3rd, mostly by car. Jacob Ayers, KPBS News.
Countries are stopping or restricting travel to and from the UK as a new COVID-19 variant spreads rapidly in England. The CDC says it's assessing how to respond, adding there are no plans yet to impose travel restrictions. UK government officials say the variant may be up to 70% more transmissible than the earlier type of coronavirus, but there is no evidence so far that it's more deadly or resistant to vaccines. California's health secretary says the state is monitoring the situation.
We're looking to make some recommendations at further monitoring people who travel in from these impacted areas, particularly the UK, and having those conversations now, because the last thing we want to do is let a new strain of COVID come and spread more rapidly or easily across the state.
So far, there is no evidence of this strain here in California. The first female Marine recruits will arrive in San Diego early next year. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says is part of the process to determine how the Marines will finally end segregated boot camps.
The Marines are under a congressional mandate to end separate basic training for women. All female recruits currently train at Parris Island, South Carolina. In February, that will change with the arrival of the first platoon of 60 female recruits in San Diego's 100-year history. Colonel Matthew Palma heads the Marine Corps Recruiting Depot, San Diego.
All in all, recruit training is recruit training. The buildings are all the same. The training area is the same. There's not much that we had to change.
Critics have long charged that separating the sexes as they learn what it means to be a Marine perpetuates a sexist culture which later leads to harassment of women in the ranks.
I think missing out on the opportunity to work alongside and see your fellow Marines in training, there could be the potential for biases to be created, So we try to deconstruct those biases, obviously, in our instruction.
And expose Marines to female leaders, he says. The first 3 female drill instructors just recently graduated from MCRD San Diego. They will help train the first female recruits. Long-term, San Diego wants the Corps to consider building new barracks to accommodate women.
At the end of the day, we're all Marines. We're here pretty much train civilians and then turn them to a fine force.
At the moment, the Corps is looking at every option, even creating a brand new single boot camp at a new location.
I think, although in practice, it seems like it's going to be quite easy, there's things that we don't know yet.
Palma stressed at the moment this is still only a test, part of a process of deciding how the Marines will finally integrate women during basic training. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Hawaii's Big Island is on red alert after the Kilauea volcano erupted. It happened yesterday after the U.S. Geological Survey says a 4.4 magnitude earthquake hit. At least 7 other smaller earthquakes followed. Residents are being warned about falling volcanic ash and being told to stay indoors. Kilauea last erupted in 2018, destroying more than 700 homes. Take a moment to look up at the sky tonight. Jupiter and Saturn are aligned, appearing as a double planet. It's called a conjunction, and the last time one this close happened was during Galileo's time in the 17th century. Given the timing, some people are calling it the Christmas star. The conjunction will be closest about an hour after sunset. It'll be visible to a lesser extent each night until Christmas in the low western sky.
Well, I guess it's a tale of the winds this week. Our winds turn onshore Tuesday. That'll bring in some cooler conditions. Then the winds shift offshore on Wednesday, and it'll be breezy at times. Those winds will diminish later in the week, but our dry stretch continues. But it does look like there's a chance for some wet weather starting Sunday night and into Monday of next week. So there is a potential. So let's hang in there. As we look at tonight, down to 38 Oceanside, San Diego's at 49, Escondido 44, El Cajon 45, Ramona a little bit nippy there at 34, and Mount Laguna bundle up 29. Now, as we look at our weather for Tuesday, well, it's coming back the onshore flow, so that'll be bringing in us some cooler air, and of course there'll be some clouds with that. As we take a look at our temperatures in the forecast, 65 Oceanside, 66 San Diego. Ramona's at 71, El Cajon 73, so that's not too hard to take. Borrego Springs 76 and Mount Laguna 61. Well, on Wednesday, the flows start to turn back offshore again, so it'll be a breezy day, especially through the mountains and inland areas. Winds will be strong and gusty. Temperatures showing mid-60s for Tuesday, then temperatures start to creep up a little bit with our offshore flow returning. And it looks pretty nice for the end of the week. Inland sections near 70, getting windy, especially on Wednesday. Temperatures cooling off a little bit towards the weekend. And as we check out the mountains, some clouds around, some winds will be an issue there on Wednesday. And there you can see the end of the week. Looks like mid-50s with sunshine. And as we take you out to the deserts, degrees. Temperatures here in the mid-70s Tuesday, and then the temperatures drop off a little bit, but still nice with sunshine into the weekend. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
President-elect Joe Biden is halfway toward being vaccinated against COVID-19. He got his first dose of the Pfizer vaccine today at a hospital in Newark, Delaware. Biden will have to receive a second dose in a few weeks, and then the shot should be 95% effective. A lot of kids may have been worried that coronavirus would keep Santa Claus homebound this Christmas, but the nation's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says he's taking care of it.
Will Santa still be able to visit me in coronavirus season? What if he can't go to anyone's house or near his reindeer?
Well, I have to say I took care of that for you because I was worried that you'd all be upset. So what I did a little while ago, I took a trip up there to the North Pole. I went there and I vaccinated Santa Claus myself. I measured his level of immunity, and he is good to go. He can come down the chimney, he can leave the presents, he can leave, and you have nothing to worry about.
Fauci revealed the happy news during the ABCs of COVID-19, a CNN Sesame Street town hall for families. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us, and have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.